All right, so I'm Jason McAlpine, and I am here with Ryan Dungey and Adam Laroche. We're out here shooting a project for Red Bull called Homegrown, and we didn't really have a podcast in the plan as such, but we saw the guys talking, and we started to see a lot of real similarities between these two guys in terms of the values. The Homegrown applies to Adam as much as it does to Ryan. So we sort of thought, man, I think we need to mic these guys up and get a bit of a conversation. So I guess we'll start with, the title of this project, Homegrown. What does it mean to you?
Well, I mean, it's just from the roots of when I was a young guy growing up, I very fortunate to have a good family of people around me. I grew up with two other brothers as well, and that you didn't get anywhere without working hard for it. You had to work for what you wanted, and my parents, and they raised me good, and they taught me right, and I'm glad that way. They were always setting the path for us. So I think that's it. I mean, it was just watching Dad go to work and Mom, and when things got tight, you buckle down and do everything you can and make the most of it. It wasn't living a fancy lifestyle by any means. It was just really humbling and good to go back. And even through my whole career, it was just nice to go back to Minnesota. That was the one place I missed the most. And I've been in a lot of places around the country and around the world, and just being back and going back home just brought me back to the roots and where I started. And it's kind of humbling in a way, but motivating as well.
So I guess the central theme of this shoot is the corn. And so what's the connection for the Midwest to corn? Because I guess California's got the beaches, Colorado's got the mountains. How does corn, because I mean, people think like the Midwest and they think flat, but is there a special connection in the same sort of way that maybe Californians think about the beach?
Oh, I think so. I mean, this is it's the Corn Belt. It's the heartland, whatever you want. We got the corn huskers right up the road, Nebraska. And not to get technical, but it's just the soil here is prime for growing crops and specifically corn. So, that's all we see out here. You see wheat, corn, and soybeans, and more wheat, corn, and soybeans for about, a 1,000-mile drive in any direction here, which I love. And to just go off what Ryan was talking about missing home. It's interesting because when I was here in school, I couldn't wait to get out.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, this, small town, I got to get out into a bigger,
same here,
whatever. Like, yeah. I thought I was missing something. And sure enough, man, you leave for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years. I'm like, man, I can't wait to go home. Like, I've seen all the big cities. I've got to travel and play, which I would never trade for anything. It was awesome, but there's a point when you just miss being home, and all my family's here too, and so it's pretty easy to after that lifestyle of travel, it's pretty easy to find yourself migrating back home and try to shut the phone off and shut everything off and just hibernate a little bit.
Yeah, you realize what's important right pretty quick.
You do,
for sure.
Well, with the motocross stuff, so a lot of the guys will go, especially when you first start off in your career, when you're you couldn't really compare maybe the lights class to the minors, but a lot of the lights class guys that race the smaller bikes, they don't really get a choice of where they live. They kind of have to migrate to California. So it's almost like this pilgrimage of when you first turn pro, you have to go to SoCal. And a lot of dudes get caught up in that lifestyle. They get a bit of money coming in for the first time. They start buying houses and cars and things like that, and the girls out there. So was it for you? You were one of the dudes that never, ever got caught up in that. And, even though you were sort of out there, you kind of always... So was it always a plan to move to Minnesota, or was it that you realized once you got to California that you wanted to move back?
For sure. I mean, I remember I was 15 years old, and like Adam said, I even called my dad. I was in California for the first time, and I went out there for a sponsor, a gear company at the time, and doing some photos, just a couple-day trip. And I knew all the riders were out there, and I thought, man, this is where I got to be. I called my dad, we got to move here. We got to be here, and I'm 15 years old, thinking I know what I want. And still to this day, I think I know what I want sometimes, but and at the same time, here we are, and I turned pro at 16, living in California. I I was a full year there in a 1-bedroom apartment. I was so scared to go out and venture out because I knew there was a lot of, you could
temptation.
you could get yourself into trouble pretty quick. And so I focused on putting my efforts I was out there strictly to race, and that was it.
How old were you then?
I was 16. I just turned I was
wow.
just going
you
about
were a lot more mature than I was at about 25.
Yeah.
It's seriously to have the presence to say, man, I really need to focus on.
Yeah.
Not many 16-year-olds are worried about
Well,
career.
But like going back to Homegrown, it's like my dad literally would, he was a good man, and he still is. But I was so scared I never drank, never did drug, never got into anything, all that stuff in high school, because I just was I didn't want to mess up my career, because motocross, I wanted to do that for a living. I knew that. But if my dad ever found out, he would have whooped me so hard. I got some spankings, but that was good. It was it really set me on the right path pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I think with that, but it was what it was. I was just about to turn 17, got my own place, and here I am. Now I got to prove myself and all this stuff, and it was just I'm living what I thought I wanted, where I wanted to live, and then it was good, but it was just hard.
Were you with Lindsay at that point as well?
No, I didn't meet my wife until about a year later. I lived there for about a year, and then I moved to Minnesota for the summer of '07 to do the outdoors, and then ended up having an injury, and I went home to Minnesota. Had nothing, got rid of my place in California, and then something opened up in Florida. But meanwhile, when I was in Minnesota, I ran into my wife in right in Belle Plaine, where my parents were living, and that's where we moved to when I was 15. And I always thought I knew I wanted a good woman, a good girl, and everything, but I thought I'd met everybody where I lived, and I guess I hadn't. So I walked into a diner, and there she was, and went on a date, and the first night was amazing. But it was just the hanging out with her, that presence, I knew something was there. So it was just so much. Yeah.
I'm actually more impressed now hearing that, because I thought that you and Lindsay were together the whole time. So I thought you'd moved to California as a taken dude.
No.
But you had the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see that he's moved there, he's got a girlfriend, and so the temptations are easy to say no to. But the fact that you were single when you moved there, that's even more impressive to me.
That's what I'm saying. You're wise beyond your years at 16. I remember my dad always used to say, he's like, son, there's nothing better than a good woman, and there's nothing worse than a bad one. And man, the older I got, I'm like, that is so true.
Yeah.
And it sounds like I haven't met Lindsay. I can't wait to, but it sounds like we both got pretty lucky on the
very much
with our wives and our schedules, and you'll find out with kids that those a whole nother wrench and everything. But
it's good. It was when I first got here. It was good to talk to you and your wife about. You guys, obviously a little bit older, but what, 10 years? You're 37?
A lot older.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. Come on.
We don't need to put a number on it.
No, but it's like that scenario, like where your wife's at, and yes, you have kids, I don't, but it's like there's so many similarities there. It was good to hear. I wish, like I said, I wish Lindsay was here because some of the stuff, it's hard going through some of the stuff that not many people experience that, so you feel like you go through it alone, but you're not,
Right.
It's good to hear everybody's stories and relate. So.
Well, there's not a lot of careers.
Mm-hmm.
People retiring all the time from everything. There's not a lot of careers and people retiring from this lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's just not. Typically, 99% of the world lives where they work. They go to work 9 to 5, whatever it is, come home. You raise a family, you take a vacation a couple times. It's just more of a... I would never complain, and I would never say, man, I'm jealous of that lifestyle, because we've both been, blessed with way more than we'll ever deserve. But it's different.
Yeah.
So you don't run across guys too often that you can sit and talk about the transition, and so that's interesting.
Probably the age thing has to come into play too, because what, you're 27 now?
Yes.
Or 28,
yeah.
coming up 28.
28.
So there's literally guys and girls that are still in college.
Yeah.
So you've had a career before, some people even finish school. So some people even start a career at 27, 28. They find the job that they want to do. And you've done a lifetime, you've achieved a lifetime worth of what you're going to achieve in a sport. And similar with baseball, I think, some of the dudes maybe go a little bit longer in baseball, but even just the age, like finding guys that maybe have retired so young, and now you've got a financial freedom to be able to sort of do what you want to do. But yeah, it's like, what do I do now? What do I, where do I sort of go from there? Because did you, I guess you retired under different circumstances too. You sort of drew a line in the sand with
Chicago.
With Chicago, with Drake. And I mean, so you kind of retired it was probably sudden for you. Did you come out of that and sort of think what next?
Well, it was sudden, but to be honest, I probably wasn't far away
regardless
from walking away. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I wouldn't have left before that. I would have played out that season. I don't know after that if I would have signed, an extension but I felt like I was getting, we were talking about that this morning a little bit, just some of the stuff I got involved with, a couple years prior to that, and just some of the stuff I was being introduced to outside of baseball that was kind of becoming kind of more and more of a passion. I knew it was getting close, and it's neat because you talk about walking away from the dirt bike and the track and walking away from baseball. I haven't missed it at all, and I think you mentioned earlier, like it's not something I guess you miss the competition some, but you don't like wake up craving.
No,
man, I wish I was still in uniform. I wish I was still out there. And I think that's when that that the timing's right. So I've had literally zero regrets. But anyway, I was getting close. So that just kind of sped up the process.
Is the age thing weird though, that most people will spend their time working to say like 60, 65, and then you're almost limited in terms of your options. Maybe some people are limited financially as well, and then retirement's like you can kind of cruise and coast. But like I know you were saying that you got so used to being on like such a strict schedule, and then all of a sudden you've got a bit of the financial freedom. You're young to you're in your physical prime, so there's no like physical restrictions that maybe comes with like normal retirement. So did you sort of even before you retired, did you know what you wanted to do?
I had ideas. I still struggle with that a little bit. But to like what Adam was saying, I for sure, I think it's just it just shows that I don't miss it. But what it shows is that I did everything we did everything we could. We put it all out there on the field, and when it was done, and I'm happy with that, and I don't wake up. I don't regret it one bit. I don't miss anything, and there was a lot of good. But yeah, the thing I think I struggle with the most is like, I don't struggle with it, but it was just like how you do something for so long, and I'm retired. I'm 27, gonna be 28, and I'm just like, man, it's so young. But at the same time, I've learned what's important, the racing and the achievements and all that stuff was great, but the platform you have and what you can go on and do. And so I know moving forward, it's like I've talked to Adam, and he's in, he does a lot of, charity work and a lot of giving back and stuff that's more giving than receiving. And that's more rewarding to a human being, so I want to still be productive. I miss that getting better, but I was getting better for the sports it's selfish kind of, it's like I knew that there was more. It's like everybody's like, don't rock the cradle. We want this guy to perform good. We want him to be okay. We don't want him upset. He's got to go out there and do his job, and everybody's sacrificing everything for you. And yeah, that time is limited, how long you can do that, but it's like, finally I want to give back. Like I want to do something for somebody else, and I think racing started losing its meaning to me. Like it started to become meaningless, and because we did that and it was fun. And but moving forward, I want to, it's not 100% what's there. There's stuff, we're doing charity work, and we're still going to continue to do those things, but I want to find ways how I can benefit other people, and whatever that is, doing it to the best. And so that's where I'm at right now. I wish I could say I had it all together, but not together, but I wish I had that plan, but I don't. And I just knew that racing was done and it's time to move on, and can focus on my wife and moving on to that chapter, and we'll see what's next. You know, I believe God's got good plans. So,
Kids.
yeah, that kids
Kids is next.
That's that, and we've waited a long time. So I probably would have been a long time ago we would have had them, but Lindsay being smart, you know, knowing what's best, we held off. So we'll get to that, but it's interesting. It's a lot to process.
One of the things that I wanted to, I guess it kind of goes with what you just said, but I was around you a bit doing the stuff that we do, and there was an intense focus all the time, and it seemed like you put so much energy into winning races, and it wasn't like, I never got the feeling with you that it was winning was what was important. It was more that you were doing your job the best you could do it, if that makes sense. Like, kind of got the vibe that if a third was a third, it wasn't about, it just wasn't so much the result, but about doing the job right. And I feel like that would have been really tiring and exhausting, because it just seemed like you were just in focus all the time for years and years and years. You had that focus, and even this week it's a different dude, and it's like the job, and it's not about, you know, the laps and that sort of stuff. It's about, let's make this project really cool, let's do this, so it kind of, I can already see that just in this week. So I guess, was it just tiring with the amount of focus and energy and effort that you put into the career?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I'd love to hear Adam's, how you're mentally handled that as well. Like, for me, I always felt that it was really hard for me to fully decompress and let go, even in the off season, because, whether it's eating a lot of food, getting out, you know, not working out, you maybe put on a few pounds, getting out of shape, you know, whatever it was, doing a photo shoot, you kind of knew you had to get back, and that when you're performing and racing, you know, at the highest level, it's like you're squeezing every bit of physical performance out of your body, as much as, you know, trying to be the strongest you can be. So it was just constantly, if you weren't riding and training and all, you were resting, and vice versa. So there was just little time for everything else. And I really craved that. Yeah, like going back to Minnesota, if I could have flew back there, like, and just spent the night, I would have just, but you know, it wasn't like that. And I couldn't go back there for a week at a time, because there was so much upkeep, you know, maintenance with the physical side. So I just never felt like I could fully let it go. And not to mention, it's a high level risk sport. I don't think I was going to let go until I was fully walked away. Thankfully, you know, I'm very thankful. And I didn't live it in fear. Was it a little bit, you know, it gets your adrenaline going for sure. I mean, who's wouldn't? It's from the time as an amateur till now, but I think I just, like, always hoped and believed that I want to do good and make the most of this and not let the fear start to overcome. But I also wanted to be able to, I seen some guys weren't as fortunate, you know, and how fortunate I was to walk away and to be healthy and to be safe, and I'm married, and we can go on to have kids. And I think I didn't want to, not that there was anything to lose. It just was hard to, you just feel like I got sick of that risk. And every week, every day on the racetrack, and 2 weeks off, I kind of dreaded going back, because, dude, that, you know, dirt bikes fail in the air. They crash, and they do this, but, you know, that's why, you know, God's first place in my life, because, yeah, I need his protection for sure. So,
but it's crazy, like, you say that now, right? But then think about the Vegas race when you were suicide shifting in. So it's like, here comes this big risk. Have you ever seen footage? So,
wow.
There's a race in Vegas, right? What do you think? What were you in? Were you like, you were chasing, so you were maybe like second or third or something?
Yeah,
like that?
Probably fourth, trying to get to third. Yeah, I was in third, fourth, that area. I don't remember, but yeah.
But so something happened. A rock hits the shifter. So Dungey's hitting a 75-foot triple in the air, and that was it when he could change gears, because there was a big straightaway coming up. So he was reaching down to the gear shifter and pulling it up mid-air. So, like, he's saying about
reaching down. What do you mean, with your hand?
To get to the shifter.
Yeah.
So I ran into a tough block. It took my shifter and kind of bent it outwards and down. So I could not get my foot under. I tried to heel shift. I tried to get underneath it. And so I would finally get it into second with my hand over the triple. and then I'd go around the left-handed turn, and because it was hanging so far out, it would hit the ground and knock it back down into first. So, I mean, if I can at least be in second, I'm good. But if I'm in first, I'm like really revving out. So, but I will say, when I was out there on the track, I was 100% committed.
That's what I'm saying.
I was like, look, I know
whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. I know this. I got to make the most. But yeah, I've had a couple.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, it's a crazy. So that's what you're saying. Like, you know, you get sick at the wrist, but then it's like a guy that's in the moment is just absolutely sending it, just fully risk adverse.
You can't let up.
Yeah.
To be at that level, you're a competitive dude. Period. Anybody that's at the top of their game is competitive, and even when you retire, you can't go out there and let up. I don't know what it is. Like it's in you.
Well, I guess that's why you guys reached the top, right?
I think so. I mean, I retired. This is my second year, and we still play a tournament where I bring back former major league guys in Wichita, and we go play against college kids every year. And it's a blast, and guys that haven't got to put on a uniform in a long time and lace the cleats up, you know, get a chance to come out. And we play, you know, 5 or 6 games, and it's not like go out there and sign some autographs. I mean, it's legit, you know, baseball. Mm-hmm. And these guys are just blowing out left and right, because I try to tell all the guys, I'm like, listen, none of us are in the shape we used to be. Like, take it easy. You know, you hit a ground ball, jog it out. Don't go chasing balls in the gap. And it just, when it happens, you're going 100 miles an hour. And so I can see that even later in your career when you maybe don't necessarily need first place, or, you know, that it's just not in you to coast in and, you know, be satisfied with something less than what you feel like you could have gotten to. So I don't know that goes away. And that's the thing with retiring. And when you retire young, like you were talking about, I don't think the dream isn't to go play golf every day and sit in the rocking chair, you know, and do nothing.
Yeah.
Because you're competitive. So when guys get out, I know when guys get out of baseball, they're looking for like another mission. Mm-hmm. Now what? Now I got to do this my whole career at the highest level and compete every night. So how can how can we keep going and find something to do? And that is tricky.
Yeah.
Especially if like racing or baseball or whatever sport you're in, if that's all you had, you know, if that's all that your whole life revolved around that, then it's just totally shifting gears. No pun intended. When you move on to kind of life after work.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like that. It was like, and I was so afraid to get into anything else, whether it be business or a business deal or anything. And I kind of feel like maybe I should have, but it was just so, you know, 100% into it that when it was done, and it was a big shift in gears. And so I'm about 4 months now. So yeah, I'm trying to understand that, and you know, and yeah, I've had some bad breakdowns for sure. Only in front of my wife, but I struggled but you know, I try to come back and see, and it's usually when I'm looking within myself. Selfish motivation, selfish ambition, selfishly trying to find out what I want to do versus like, what does God want me to do next, you know? And when I look out and giving, and I got to get out of that me mentality. It's been that way for years, and I got to move on to this. What can I do to benefit others? So.
Well, I don't see you being a real selfish guy. I mean, I know you're probably hard on yourself sometimes, but that's been the coolest thing, getting to meet all you guys, but getting to hang out a little bit is, you know, we've all been around guys that are really good at what they do. And I've known some before they were really good. And then when they've kind of arrived and made the money or got all the accolades, and it can be 2 totally different guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's always so refreshing to be around guys that you talk to their friends and they're like, man, this dude hasn't changed since high school, or this guy hasn't changed since I met him, you know, in college, and you can just tell, you know, going back to the homegrown, you can tell you were raised right. Yeah. You got your priorities in order. And I love the fact that now you're just thinking about, you know, what can I do? How can I help? Yeah. I got mine. I got to do my thing, and it was awesome. And you're so right. You know, the amount of people that cater to you during your career, and the stuff that people put on hold, or the, you know, people that go out of their way. And, you know, I wish I could go back and thank a lot of the little bat boys and clubbies and grounds crew and guys that maybe when you're so locked into what you do and so zoned in on that game tonight or that race tonight, that some of those guys kind of maybe get overlooked or shadowed, that are the behind the scenes guys that, you know, would be nice to, if I could rewind to a younger me and go back and really pay attention to some of those guys that make it all, you know, make it all click for us.
Yeah.
Is that what's hard in baseball, because there's so many staff at a clubhouse? Because it's a franchise, like an organization, because I think with like Red Bull KTM, you get to be pretty intimately close with all of those guys on a weekly basis. Is it hard with baseball that there's so many more people involved in making that wheel turn?
Well, I think it's maybe more similar than you think, because we had our team and our team guys. So you had your staff that just travels with you. You know them by, you know, first name, you know their kids, and it's the guys that it's the Jason with Dream Tracks that builds the track. You know, so the guys that you really maybe never get a chance to meet, or the guy that's out there watering the track, or the, you know, the ambulance that's on call, those two guys that sit there all day sweating their nuts off, you know, for
now it's true,
you know, to go back and like, man, if I could have just maybe walked up and signed something for their kid or introduced myself, and you probably did it just knowing you for a couple days and the kind of genuine guy I'm sure that you made a lot of people's day, like going out of your way. But I feel like we always could have done, you know, a lot more of that, where you're just so locked in on what I need to do to prepare what we need to do to win tonight, that you can overlook some of that. But hindsight.
Were you, because I'm not a massive baseball guy, we don't really, it's not the biggest sport in Australia, but
I know, I've been there.
were you like a natural talent guy? You know what, like, because with Ryan, I think that this whole homegrown and this being a retirement kind of piece is the fact that he was all like in motocross. When you look at the history books, there'll be a couple of dudes that were the epitome of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Right,
and that's where this whole concept really came from, and with the cornfield and the work that goes into, you know, that kind of agriculture. Were you one of the talent guys, or were you a hard work guy?
I don't know that you can. I think you have to have both. I think more than anything, I see guys with a talent level way higher than mine. I mean, way more talent and potential than I had, that never made it. A big part being work ethic and how bad did they want it. I always say, and I compare like the military guys, like the SEALs, when they go into buds or into camp, if you go in with the mentality of like, man, I hope I make it, or I think I can, you ain't making it.
Yeah. No,
you got to go in there saying, this is what I'm doing, and you know, you're gonna have to kill me for me not to achieve this. But I play with a lot of guys that you watch them in the minor leagues or even in college, and like, man, this guy is the next Barry Bonds, and they just, you know, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. Which I wanted to ask you about. I was curious because I got to obviously got to watch you ride the last few days live. I've seen it on TV a bunch, but how mental is the sport of moto?
Yeah, I mean, I get asked that, and I would for sure say you like, you can be the most physically fit guy out there, but if mentally you don't have it, it's worth nothing. You know? The mental side is huge, and you know, early on, I learned that right away too. You know, it took a couple years and going through a couple bumps and this and that and some mistakes and all that, but it's just like, if you don't believe in yourself from the get-go, then, like you said, you're not going to make it.
You're done.
Yeah, huh? And it was, I mean, there were so many moments, and I can you know, remember a few moments that mentally it was so, the hardest time it was mentally to be the strongest is when you're like the closest, and that was like whether it's championship day or like my last race was 9 points, and I had to get fourth or better if the guy won, and it just the way, but it was just so, the demons want to come in and just tell you everything the opposite of good.
Yeah.
And then to fight that and to be strong and to see yourself and to believe in yourself and mentally be confident and be mentally strong. And if I would say, I would put more emphasis on being mentally stronger than be physically, fit, do your stuff, but
but just as important,
mentally was just
to be mentally.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because that's every guy I've got to play with some guys that golf for a living, or some football players that maybe come out and hunt. We always get into the mental side of it. It sounds like every sport, it's absolutely crucial to be mentally just locked in. Because I remember, like, when I would struggle, which was about half my career, by the way, were the times when you'd go up there like just kind of hoping you get a hit, or or when it's really bad. I mean, I've been up there where, like, man, I'll pop a ball up that may go foul. Like, just please stay fair and catch it so I don't strike out. I mean, that's when you're like at the bottom of your game. But I've seen that mental side, and I think that's what's kept a lot of guys out of the big leagues. I'm sure it's kept a lot of guys from the podium, is not going up there with 100% confidence. It's funny how fast that can come and go. Like we were talking yesterday on the track, and you were talking about your bike and how if there was a lot going on, or if there was too much going on, it would like, you just start to think too much.
Well,
and the negative stuff starts to creep in.
And so and as I got older, I remember a guy told me, I was talking to him once, he's like, mental toughness is living in the moment. And I was thinking about that. He's like, yeah, that's true, because for so much of my career, I was so like, it's easy with all the noise around the other riders and everything, all these other elements, it's so easy to focus on, right? Like, oh, this guy and this pitch and or all this other stuff, but yourself. Yeah. And I realized, like, I thought I was there, but my mind wasn't totally there with me at that present moment. And when I started living in the moment, I was all there, all together. I was sharp. My reaction time was better. Everything was just clicking, right? And I think maybe when you were there, actually, like, your mind was there. I mean, like, it was.
I couldn't.
You were a powerful. You were strong. You don't
see or hear anything else. Yeah, I couldn't tell you if there was anybody in the stands or if there was 50,000 in the stands. But when you're not.
Yeah.
When I'm not.
Can you like notice everything?
Oh, I hear the guy. I hear the Yankees fan above the duck telling me how bad I suck, and telling,
that's crazy,
spitting my stats out, and I'm hearing that. I'm like, this dude's 100 feet away. How am I hearing this right now?
Yeah.
And that's how domed up I was at the time, and that's when you just don't have a chance.
Yeah.
But I think, man, that keeps so many guys from reaching that level, that just mentally, you got to have a short-term memory. And stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. If I'm looking back at last night's game when I was 0 for 4, gosh, I can't get those 2 strikeouts out of you're done. And that got, it got better. The more success you have, you have more and more confidence.
You start building.
Then you're mentally strong. So it all kind of comes together, and that's why it's probably crucial early on when you were 16 to have some success. To start building that up, where you're like, all right, you line up, and you're like, I'm the guy to beat right now.
Yeah.
Like, good luck, boys.
Right.
So
I think with racing, it's probably because one of the cool things I think about your career. So you'd play a lot of comparisons, like Bobby Bonds, Babe Ruth, or you've got the guys, and they're like the benchmark guys. But it's really hard, like Jordan, LeBron. You're sort of comparing two dudes that are in these different eras. But a lot of the great guys, really the only dude in the modern great era of motocross that you didn't race is Ricky.
Yeah.
You raced James, you raced Chad, you raced Kevin, you rate, and then now you've got Eli, you've got Ken, even Marv, you've raced the world, you've raced Caroli. So I think that, it's really Ricky and Everts are the two dudes.
Yeah.
So I think that with that, I mean, in terms of like a Hall of Fame career, you've raced the full spectrum of guys, bar maybe 2.
Yeah.
But I think with motocross, it's so in your face, the visible comparisons. You're on the same track at the same time. There's a lap time. So like, was that from me from the outside? And I mean, a lot of people, there was points in your career where you were really criticized against what someone else could physically do on a motorcycle. Like you look at James could go out and he could do one lap and be 4 seconds quicker against what everything you had. So how hard is that to overcome, because you're constantly comparing yourself to a dude that's right there next to you, and you know, even to see a dude pull away from you when you're doing everything you can.
Yeah, it's testing for sure, and like Adam said before, it's like for sure there's guys, even I raced against this year and the year before, that are more talented than me. They got more speed, they're more skilled, they work hard too, you know, but I have to, you know, I was training for the 2016 season. I just won the championship in 15. And I remember a couple guys I was riding with at the track that we ride together every single week. You know, we're out there chasing each other, and then the next year comes out and they're like right on pace with me, if not a little quicker, and we're trading lap times. I'm like, kind of bothering me a little bit, and I just thought to myself, you know what? They're fast, they got skill, they're good, but I'm gonna have to beat them with my experience. You know, that's all I have right now on them, and I need to apply that and use that. So going into 16, I thought, you know what, my experience, my consistency, just do my deal, focus on myself, and you're talking about expectations, and it wasn't until like 2014 I realized that my own expectations were weighing me down. Especially like I wanted to win already before the gate dropped, so I was hanging on to this win, and I kind of choke, you know, and I'm like, what's the deal? And finally I let go of it all, and I said, you know, I was talking to a guy, and just corner by corner, race, you know, one lap at a time, whether you're second, third, first, doesn't matter. If you're just race the track yourself, and focus on you and what you can apply. And when I did that, it was fun. It didn't weigh me down. It didn't, I wasn't afraid to fail anymore, you know. But getting back to the riders, and I wasn't the strongest guy this year. I know I wasn't. Physically, I believed in myself for sure, but physically I was lacking, not physically, but in a few areas I was lacking in a lot of areas, from speed. But the one thing I had was the consistency, and I just tried to use my experience and bring that to the table, and then it worked, you know, and believing in myself and putting myself in a position and all these things. So these up and coming guys are young, and they take risks. They're doing things where I think I started getting a little too smart for my own good, and you know, but I just was thinking twice about stuff. Like, I know the consequences if I come up short on this jump, on this quad, you know, right? We're doing quads now, 4 jumps in a row, and it's like, why do we got to do quads now? Can't we just shave this thing down and keep it a triple? But no, we got to these massive jumps. And so I was just like, oh boy, just keep it cool, keep it, focus on you, do your thing and stuff. So yeah, it's just, I had to focus on myself again and do what I had to do. But yeah, like baseball, what is it? You know, you can't compare that guy and that guy at the same time, but so it's tougher. You go off stats, right, and stuff.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I never like to compare myself. And I think a lot of people have learned this, because you're either going to find something they're good in and you're going to get down and wish you had that and envy that, or you're going to be better than them at that, and then you're going to get a little prideful, and that's when the fall comes. So I just like, you know what, do my deal, and here we go.
Man, I remember when I first came up and walked into a big league clubhouse, and I'm looking at these dudes, and I'm skinny now, but I was real skinny as a rookie. And I'm looking around at some of these guys that are huge. I'm thinking, man, I should be like the bat boy on this team. I mean, you talk about comparing yourself to others. So I'm literally, my first month, I'm like, I know I'm pretty good, like kind of an internal confidence, but these guys got me about like 50 pounds, 100. These guys are men.
Muscle, huh?
And I'm just a little kid, you know, barely got hair under my arms. Like, I can't. And over time, then you start to, all right, they, you know, especially guys you play against, all right, they just got me on size or speed or whatever it is, but you kind of figure out where your niche, what you're good at, and go from there. But I don't know if we can, I don't know that, I think there's a lot of comparisons, but one is, ours is more like a marathon. I mean, ours is every night, not near the wear and tear at all, but it's not like the short sprints.
Right.
It's not so I think there is a little difference where you have to go, when it's go time, you're 100 miles an hour. Ours is a little more stretched out, with 162 games and then, spring training. So I don't know, the wear and tear on you guys. I don't know how you, I can understand why guys retire before they're 30, because shoot, I'm 37 now, and you saw me on a dirt bike yesterday, just scared to death, gripped on, trying not to fall off. And yeah, I don't know how y'all do it.
Is your guys more of like in baseball, a mental wear and tear? Because it's that, I guess with, if you're at bat physically, that's not a 30-minute sprint race on a 200-pound motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
But is it, like you said, you were worried about the strikeout, or someone just catches ball so I don't get struck out.
Right.
So
right.
Is there more room over, say, do you guys play for like multiple days in a row, right?
Yeah, I think, I think we average, like, over the course of a year, I think we average it like 1.5 off days a month. So about a day and a half off. So some months you may get a day off, some months you might get, 2 days off.
So if something's going wrong, then it can compound.
It does,
So it's not like you get that week off where you can go home, get on the program.
That can be good and bad, though.
Yeah, because if you go on a run, you
roll. And if you're not doing good, I don't have to sit and wait a week stewing on the game the night before. Like, you have a bad race, you can't fix it the next night.
No.
You got to go through the travel, the practice, the whole time thinking like, man, weekend, hurry up and get here so I can.
You're living that race Monday night.
Oh, I can't imagine. So at least I get to, you go home and sleep on it. You don't have time because the next day it's go time again. You're playing again. So
like you got to, like you were saying before, it's so important to have a short-term memory, but you actually get a chance to have a short-term memory because it is a pretty short time until you can hit that reset button.
And these guys don't have that. I mean, especially if you get hurt. I mean, if you're out, if you miss a few races, then the whole time you're just thinking.
Well, these days, if you're hurt, it's done. If you miss one, like you could probably get away with like maybe one race, but if you miss maybe even more than 1-2 races, it's.
Oh, really? So it does you no good to come back and finish the last
really.
few?
It's just hard. And not to mention, if you do have an injury, you can't ride. Well, your physical, you start losing your physical, and these guys are racing and they're getting better each week. So
to come back and compete after an injury is tough.
Championship, it's pretty much over. But you can still come back and compete for some wins and stuff. But I had a question for you. I was thinking about like I remember growing up, and even when I was turning pro, and then even when I jumped to the 450 class, I mean, I was racing against guys that I remember I was 13, maybe 12 or 13. Here comes Bubba Stewart onto the scene. I'm like, wow, this guy's everybody like this. And then all of a sudden I'm racing against him, and you're like, how do you, but you change into that mode, but you went from like, dang, look at this guy, he's good.
Watching
and looking
TV
up to him.
Yeah.
To like, dang, now you're with him. Did you ever have any moments like
players? I had, there was a few guys. It was a little different because my dad played. So we kind of grew up around the guys in the clubhouse. And so from a young age, I was kind of around that. We used to bat boy for him. We'd always go to spring training with dad.
Okay.
And be around the guys all year. So it was a little different just because I had been around it. But there was always some guys, Randy Johnson facing him, which is a nightmare, by the way. Barry Bonds, watching him play, standing at first when he's hitting, I'm like, man, this is one of the guys
as a kid
that I grew up watching.
Oh, when you were, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was still a kid in my mind, but I was.
But here you
23 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
Getting to play against some of those guys, and you have those moments where like, man, that's pretty. I remember getting my rookie year in New York, first time playing at Yankee Stadium, hit a double off somebody, and I get to second, and Jeter comes up, which is everybody's idol.
Yeah.
And just puts his arm around me. He's like, man, welcome to the league. Way to swing it. I'm going to be pulling for you. Something like just a really classy thing that I saw a veteran do that obviously I'll never forget. I mean, even now I'm retired at 37. I remember, that was 14 years ago or something, and I'll never forget it, that he went out of his way. But I'm glad it happened because it reminded me, the older I got, how important that is for the young guys.
Yeah. That is cool.
And it's probably like, I don't know how race day works, but just going up and introducing yourself to to an Austin Faulkner who was out here hanging with us. Just a kid like that probably looked up to you. I just always wanted to remember that could have a huge effect on them down the road, like Jeter did.
Yep.
On me, which by the way, I'm no Jeter at all. I hope I didn't. I'm not making that comparison.
You're pretty good. You're pretty dang good.
Well, I got lucky. I had the mentality of swing hard in case I hit it, and occasionally it worked out.
I think one of the cool things that I sort of it was like a recent thought with moto, like it's a team sport with you guys. And you've got your mates, and then you even play for other teams, and then I know you still hunt with some of the boys that you used to play with but played against. But I think with moto, I think honestly a legacy that maybe people won't really think about too much directly now in your career is that it was so individual before you and Baker's Factory. And now I think you guys really changed the game in a lot of ways to where it went from just you sort of on an island by yourself and not wanting to let people see times, testing, things like that. Yeah. And now, you came along, and you and Marv this year were really good friends. And then even through retirement, you've gone, and then you've got Ando there, and then you had AC there. And, there's a real, you created a dynamic. And I think you were the first dude, premier dude, to say, no, it's okay. Like, when have you seen James ride with anybody? Or, Ricky back in the day didn't really ride with anybody. And I think that that's something that maybe isn't going to be looked at now, but I think going forward, that's really going to change the sport. Yeah,
definitely. There's more guys doing it. That's for sure. I didn't really know. I figured, like, why not? I've lost a championship, Supercross championship for 4 years in a row now. Something's got to change, right? Like, so I started working with a guy named Eldon Baker, and I trusted him. I felt like if this is what he thought was best, and a spot opened up for me down with him, and I moved down there, and it was great. We worked hard. We chased each other. It really improved the my racing. Because I was always felt like I was being chased. And I was chasing somebody or being chased, and that was just like race scenarios typically. So. But with Eldon, we worked hard, we put in our time, and so when we showed up at the race, it wasn't really any different, and
did it make the laps go by quicker through the week? Because that's a grind, man. Like, the way you guys train, and it's just every day. It starts off with 2-hour cycle, then you've got motos, every single thing is timed. Then it's a gym session, and then you've got to go home, you've got to cook. There's a huge emphasis on rest with Eldon's program. So, when you're doing that for years and years, and that's your daily grind, did the guys that you were with, I know Ando's a funny dude, you and Marv got super close, did that make the laps go by that little bit quicker?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't have even lasted 3 more years if I kept the rate I was going. Riding with other people was just incredibly helpful for me, because I didn't have to think about it, about keeping myself motivated out there by myself. It's funny how you start, not daydreaming, but you start drifting off out there by yourself. And when you got a guy that's right ahead of you, and you're like, I'm competitive, right? You put him in front of me, I'm going to try to chase him down. I want to pass him, or whatever, give him a distance, so that was my goal, and whether I was leading and not wanting to be caught, or the guy was in front of me, not wanting to catch him, trying to catch him. So the intensity was there. The fun factor started to come about. Everything just started to click in a good way, and it was a great time. And I think those last 3 years, switching topics a little bit, but it's like those last 3 years, what was a lot more fun for me is that, and Eldon taught me this, is that I started like we were talking earlier, not looking at myself so much. I tried to do the best I could, but I started seeing, like, I was at the test track one day. We were testing out in California, and I was really upset. We had with the old bike, and now we're on a new bike, and we're still fighting a few things. So 4 years, we've been struggling a little bit trying to get these good settings, and it starts to wear on a guy, So I just kind of lost it and started kind of being a jerk and just not really treating my guys like I should. And Eldon, we got back to the house that day, and Eldon pulled me aside, and he was like, what happened there today? I was like, because I didn't really say much. I just went into my own and just kind of just sat there and kind of pouted, just had a little pity party, And he's like, mate, you remember you're steering the ship, And I was like, yeah, you're right, you know, and it really hit me then is that these guys are feeding off of me, you know, and how if I act like that, how it's just they're gonna go back and, you know, what are they gonna want to do for me if I'm acting like that, you know, and that just right there and then it like things just changed right from that conversation moving forward. And I didn't really have to work on it because it's just like I noticed it, and then it just I wanted to be better, you know, and I went and I wanted to motivate the guys. I encouraged the guys. I started encouraging people and investing in the lives of other people, and that was just so like rewarding and fun. And it wasn't about winning a race and a championship, though that was the goal. But aside from that, we were just enjoying this ride, and for 3 years it was a heck of a ride. And from where we went till now, from with KTM where it was, and then we had 3 years and it was great, but these last 3 years were just like incredibly fun and enjoyable, hard, you know, but just like the rewarding and how we all got there. And so it was just such a shift in mentality from me to, it's amazing how that works, you know. It's like it went from me trying to just, you guys get me there, to like, I had to turn around and say, guys, let's do this together, right? And I don't know, it was just 10 times better, 10 times funner. The results were way better, and everything just fell into place. So that and riding with other guys at Eldon's extended my career a little longer, and things I can continue to do. So anyway, that was just a little nugget.
No, it's funny how that works when we go from being concerned about being served to serving.
Yeah.
How much that can change your path, your attitude, your outlook, and then eventually the results, you know, of whatever you're trying to do. It does. It just kind of frees you up to go out there, maybe have a little more fun,
enjoy
have a little better perspective on, hey, this guy over here is not getting any of the glory. He's dang sure not making the kind of money, and yet going through all this, and to just appreciate them a little more. And that kind of goes back to if I could go back and maybe thank some of those guys and have that, like that kind of that aha moment you had with Eldon and him kind of sitting you down. And it sounds like he's kind of the grandfather over there and the wizard.
Yeah, he's a solid guy.
Yeah, that's
solid person, solid family. Just
I just wish those times would have came earlier in my career.
Yeah.
Kind of those times when you start thinking about others more. But interesting.
Did you have like a mentor in that form? Because I guess it'd be hard in baseball, right? Because you've got a team manager, like they call them team managers, right? And then you've got a different crew, a different staff. So is it hard to have a consistent mentor through your career? Like, did you have anyone that you kind of always leaned on that was maybe outside of all of the teams, or did you have guys in old sort of teams? Because I feel like mentors are pretty important, whether it's business, sport, just, you know, life in general.
Life,
yeah. So like, did you have a force like that?
I mean, no doubt my dad. I mean, he was kind of the one that he knew me, he knew my swing, he knew kind of the ins and outs probably better than I did. So he was one I would lean on. But I always had guys. I was lucky coming up. I had Chipper Jones, who's still a close friend. We do a lot of hunting together. But he was one that kind of early on took me under his wing, and he's one I could go sit in the video room, you know, for hours, and we'd look at different pictures, and he'd look at my swing, you know, past and present, and help me there. But there was always seemed like some veterans early on that I could lean on for stuff like that. But overall, my dad would be the one that when it was all going to crap, Dad was getting the call, and sure enough, my mom would chime in. It was so fun. My mom thinks she was a professional hitter because I'd be 0 for 100, just couldn't hit my way out of a wet paper sack. And my mom would send me a text about how much I'm pulling my head and how messed up my mechanics are. And so early on, I'd get mad at her and I'd fire back. And then later on, I realized she just cares so much.
Yeah.
And she wants to help so much. And I started to appreciate it more. But yeah, my dad would always have some good advice.
That fun thing, like you said, the last 3 years were pretty fun. there was definitely times where I was around you where I was like, it just doesn't look like he's having that much
Wow.
fun. So, but again, it comes back to that focus. I don't think it's not like a negative thing, because not like it's your job. So it's you carry a super heavy camera that you wouldn't go, damn, this is fun. This is really, really good having this on my back for this quarter-mile
Right.
walk. So it's not like it can always be fun. But I mean, where was the fun in you? Because I think that the cameras are tight on you wiping mud off your face after 30 minutes. Like what we get shown doesn't look fun. It looks hard.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm
go
just
ahead.
going to answer part of this. In the media, the media wants you to be everything. So when you talk about the cameras in your face, or sitting at the trailer after the race, or sitting in the locker, the media wants you to be the happy-go-lucky, smile, crack jokes, have a bunch of good stuff for them, but they also want you to be, when the lights come on, to be the intense, locked in, and there's just not a lot of people that can do that and keep up with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like unrealistic expectations.
You can't win.
Right.
They love you for, man, when Ryan's racing, he's locked in like he is game mode, but then, and I don't even know, but maybe afterwards he didn't want to sit and have a beer and crack jokes with everybody and, just open up. And so I don't know. I ran into that too, because I always got criticized for like never smiling, which I thought I smiled all the time. Maybe I never do. Maybe it's just inside.
Maybe it's
or maybe the mustache hid the smile. I don't know. But it was always like, man, are you having fun? Or are you not? And so I just kind of learned that, you're not, you can't always please them and give them everything they want. I mean, it's not there. I think you're kind of one or the other.
Yeah.
Where was the fun for you then in that?
I think when I sure is it. There's moments you probably saw. Yeah. How can you be having fun living like that? But it's like, I think inside, like he said, like when I went to the track in the morning, I enjoyed my drive to the track because I looked forward to get on my dirt bike, and I enjoyed going to the races, and I was in just a better state of mind. I was incorporating, maybe some think of fun, always laughing and giggling, having a good time. But, when I was on my dirt bike, everything I was doing, I looked at it like fun. Like when I looked at the track, I could visually sit on the line and look at this track, and I'm like, all right, see it as in like, fear or hate or whatever you want to call it, as like dang, here we have to go, or see it as in fun. And when I would like visualize seeing myself going around this track having fun, it was like, man, I can't wait to get out there, and so it just brought, when we made that change, like I was telling you earlier, it just brought the fun factor back of like doing stuff I wouldn't do on my dirt bike. When you're out there on the track and you're just forcing it, rushing it, bulldogging it, it's like the setup doesn't work because you didn't ride like that during the week.
Yeah.
Being like that, you rode having a good time. So when you ride the bike having fun, you see two bumps that, I'm going to turn that into a double. I'm going to double that. And so the bike doesn't have to get all this stuff, So I had more time and patience for the fans, for the people coming up. And I didn't lose my stuff when it wasn't, when it was when I was interrupted and it wasn't something that we had planned, and it just comes up because stuff happens like that, So, and the last thing I'll say is my approach was better. I always kind of came into a few things like, I have to do that, and then it turned into, no, I get to do this,
Yeah.
And when I looked at the, doing things, whether it's sponsor commitments, whatever you name it, that I get to go do this, I enjoyed the whole process of that specific, whatever it was, a lot more. But I didn't know I could enjoy it that much because I never allowed myself to. So it was just, does it look fun? No, it's hard. It's grueling. It's one of the toughest things. And mentally, the things you face physically, and your heart rate's up there. You want to stop because you just feel the lactic acid. You're just like, you're just suffering out there. But when it was all said and done, it's like, that was incredible. Like, wow. So I don't know. It's just, that's what I don't know. I just enjoyed that.
I think when you retire and you're, what are you, 4 months out?
Yeah,
4 months.
Yeah.
I think the further we go, I mean, I'm a couple years now. I think the further you go, you look back and see it as more fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think you'll start to look at those races. It's like, man, yeah, you'll think back at a certain track, certain year. Man, that was a fun race.
Yeah.
I was with so and so, and you know, bumping, handle, whatever, coming down the stretch. And so I know looking back now, I can see baseball as being a little more enjoyable than it was at times when it's July and hot and it's kind of the dog and you're just grinding through it, you know, trying to survive it. And
yeah. Or I mean, even the times that was going through something, right? Like whether it's trying to win the World Series, you know, the whole season, it's hard. You're pushing through it, whether up into the last game, whatever you want to call it. I like, for example, my season this year, up until my last race, it was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, I'm about to just like mentally, I'm about to just sleep all day.
Right.
Physically, everything's starting to go here. I'm like, what's wrong?
Right.
But as hard as heck and facing it, it's like, but just stay there. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. And then like you get to Vegas and you win. And when you cross the checkers, it was just like, or when I crossed it, it was like instant relief, but it was just total, like worth every,
sure.
You know, cause you sacrificed, you gave up a lot. You didn't, you know, you did that because that was the goal. Right. So, but maybe when you accomplish it, it's like, gosh, that was hard as heck, and it's maybe short-lived.
But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
But well worth it.
Yeah.
Did you know your last race was Vegas? Right?
Yeah.
Or did you know that you were done?
So, no.
Okay.
Yes and no. I was leaning on the fence for a lot of people don't notice, and whether they care to hear it or not. And I tried the best I could, but I remember I prepared all the way till I did the whole off season. So when I broke my neck in 16, people asked me, did you retire because of that? I said, no, the neck injury didn't bother me. Roxon's injury, him crashing and having that crazy injury, it's like, wow, that can happen to all of us in a moment, but wasn't my reason to retire. I already knew the risks of racing, but it was just that what happened in Colorado, that mental fog. I was just so mentally, it wasn't like a thing I could control. Like, it's just, I was pushing it for so long and thread on the needle for a long time that it just, something had to give.
You just hit a wall. And
my mind wasn't there. I was sitting on the gate. I'm like, what's wrong? You know, where are you, Ryan? Get in the game. And I just couldn't. And I couldn't just go. If my life depended on it, I could go. But if my life didn't depend on it, it was just like, I was having a hard time. But anyway, so then as I took that summer off of racing, and I had because I cracked my C6 vertebrae, and I went into the doctors. He said, I don't know if you believe in a higher power, but you know, if it would have been any more, you could have been paralyzed, you know. And not just from the waist down, but and me and my wife were sitting there, and I dang near teared up, and I was just like a little emotional, and she was too. And I think right then and there we said, we're done. This is it. Like, we're going home. I want to go to Minnesota. I don't want to see a dirt bike again.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that maybe was a little bit of a fear-based decision, and it's scary for sure. Who wouldn't it be? But I decided, like, look, I had one more year on my contract. I got to at least, so I decided I'm going to take the summer off, do it the best I can, come back, and prepared the October, November, December. And I remember sitting right before I went home for Christmas, I sat down with Eldon, and I was just struggling. I was by myself with me. It was just me and Lindsay in the house, and I was sitting there thinking, and I said, Lindsay, I'm done. I can't do this. And I said, Roxon's going to beat me. Eli's going to whoop me. I'm going to get smoked. You know, at this rate, I'm just mentally not there. I'm scared. You know, I don't like this. You know, and I didn't like that. I was like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she didn't like it either, knowing how you have to be in it. So I was like, all right, mustered up again. Eldon comes over. I told him I think I'm done. He's like, let's just give it till after Supercross. Let's see where you are there. And I was like, all right, okay. It was mentally tough that season, but when I was sitting at Las Vegas, the team sat me down the second to last round, which was New Jersey, and said, hey, you can take the outdoors off, and we won't cut your pay. You can also do all of next year. We'll pay you the same to do Supercross only. I was like, man, that's wow, what a nobody's ever been offered that. That'd be amazing. That's a great deal there. How can you not take that, Ryan? You know, but it was just like, if I knew that if I took it, it was going to be because of the money, not because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And that I was already at that mental, what I was facing a year prior. And after that race, we won that race that night, and I was going into Vegas, and that was a tough week. Just, it's all on the line. Here we are. You know, you're trying to say this doesn't mean everything yet. It's like, but we have to win tonight, you know? So anyway, I just remember that day. I said, I in a good way with that, I just said, I never want to feel this way again. You know, just that racing, that risk, that nervousness, that I don't have it in me anymore to do this anymore, longer past this. And so I said, then that, I think me knowing that gave me the motivation to push through that night. And thankfully we got the job done. And I knew that middle of that day, I said, this is it.
You knew that was your last race?
I told Lindsay, this is it. And I not to drag things out a little longer, but the last day I was practicing, getting ready for Vegas in Florida. This was Wednesday. I was in my last moto. I had 10 laps to go in a 20-lap moto. So I was on my last 10 laps, and I come through this rhythm section. And, you know, dirt bikes make, you know, it's a race bike. Dirt bikes may have malfunctions, you know. They just do. We all, sooner or later. And I will say that I have never had a mechanical failure the whole time I've been with KTM, thankfully. But that day, I come through a rhythm section. I'm fully committed. I'm in the last pocket ready to triple out, and I've got a lot of speed. You know, you soak it up. So all your weight's forward. And, dude, that bike just had I went to twist the throttle. There was nothing there. And here I am. The ground is harder than concrete. It's clay. It's like, gosh. And I'm in the air flying through it, bailing off the bike. I'm thinking, is this real life right now? This isn't happening to me right now. You know, it's like one of those things.
Wednesday before the final.
This is not happening. It was just so, like, I don't know if you've had that moment, but
no, I've never been 30 feet up in the air and had a bike die on me.
So here, yeah. So
thank God.
You know, and thankfully it scrubbed my speed a little bit, so I bailed off and I kind of landed down the downside and I didn't even have a chance to run. I won 2 foot and I slammed the ground. But I got up and I'm like, gosh, am I okay? Am I all right? And thinking Vegas in my head. I'm like, am I hurt? No, everything's good. And
you were fine?
I was fine. But I was walking to the shop, you know, my visor's busted off. The bike was mangled, done. And I said, this is it. No more. That's it. So I think my mind was made up Wednesday.
So you didn't ride the Thursday, Friday?
We flew out Thursday to go to press.
So that was the last time you rode a bike before Vegas Supercross. And you
actually, he wasn't even riding the bike. Yeah.
So and then last retirement looming. Dude. Last time you put a pair of boots on.
I was a head case, man. I was just stressed out.
But is there a point in your career?
You held it together long enough.
Is there a point in your career though, like, because you hear with like Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer ever, and he'd say like, no, I want to be in a playoff with a 20-foot putt to win. I want that. Yeah. That's the only thing that's the only thing in life that gives me the feeling that I need. So is there a point when you're at bat where it's, you know, maybe there's just a crazy scenario where it's all on you, and if you hit or make a hit or a run, then you guys win, or if you don't, you lose. It's it. Yeah. Is there a point in your career where you live for that, and was there a point in your career where you lived for that pressure, but then compound over years and years, and then it gets too much to where that's a heavy weight? Like, most people aren't prepared to put their life on the line, or they're in front of millions and millions of people, you know, their career on the line at bat. That's got to be a weight to bear. That, not like, I don't go do that on a daily basis. You know what I mean? So is it that you live for it, and then there's a point where that weight's just too much to carry?
I think to feel that, to want to be at the plate in a big situation, can literally change like day to day and week to week. So if you're in one of those grooves where you're seeing it, like where it looks like beach balls, everything's slow motion, you're feeling great, you want to be up there every time there's guys on base in every big situation. There's been other times where I'm seeing it looks like they're throwing golf balls 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm like looking at the lineup thinking, man, I hope I don't come up right now like with the bases loaded in a big spot, because I don't have a prayer. You know what I mean? So it's weird. I don't think you just reach a point where you always want to be in that spot. I think in baseball anyway, it kind of comes and goes depending on, you know, how you're feeling at the time. Yeah.
Was that with that whole fun thing that we were talking about, being here and seeing you with Drake, was part of your fun as a pro baseball player the fact that you could take him, and because I guess I didn't know that your dad was a pro, I guess that was your childhood, was like you said, growing up and being a bat boy and being around the league, and then that was something that obviously that was a vision for your son, because I mean there's a lot that you can learn as a kid through those experiences that you can't get through other kind of avenues.
Sure.
Was that, I mean, that you've obviously said that was the reason for quitting, but did that just take the fun out of it? Was the fun gone when you couldn't take him and have those experiences with him?
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, fortunately, I literally 2 days after that happened, I went and rented an RV and tore the roof off of it. Told you that whole story. So that was the end of it then. So I never really experienced a season without bringing him. But a big reason for that, like you said, with my dad, those are some of the memories that I'll never forget. Those are just like some of my best childhood memories. So I remember thinking, man, when I'm as a pro, when I have a kid and he's old enough, I'm going to start bringing him and giving him some of those same memories. And I was able to. Fortunately, he was a good kid. I had some great managers and general managers that allowed it. So for 5 years, he kind of came. He came every day. He flew on the team flights with us. When we'd go on the road, he was just kind of another employee of the team. So I got to do 4 or 5 years in the league with him, kind of right by my side. That I wouldn't trade for him, and that absolutely added way more fun to it. Then it was easy to go home. We just got beat 3-2. I left a bunch of guys on base. I might be down for 30 minutes after the game, a little jammed up, and then, look at Drake and ride home with him and talk with him, and then it's pretty easy.
And he still had fun
out of it. Oh yeah. Yeah, he was good. I mean, he's on the way home, asking me why I chased the 3-2 slider in the dirt, or, he's doing the stuff that kids would do, like not thinking, man, maybe Dad's still a little upset that he just struck out with the bases loaded. Oh no, he'll go right to it. Dad, why do you always swing at the slider at your back foot? It's coming. We knew it was going to come, but you're going to swing at it. So we got some good laughs.
And I mean, he's probably saying stuff that your managers are probably employees are probably too scared to say.
Nobody
They'd be
would ever say.
And then
maybe it was the manager telling Drake what to say. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Maybe they're saying, "Hey, remind your dad he sucks" on the way home.
Oh.
It was a blast.
Yeah, and I guess that, like we were saying, that fun, because you kind of, it's such a hard thing to do that you got to kind of find your own fun in those kind of stressful situations, because it's just so outside the norm.
Well, baseball for sure, and maybe racing's the same, but there's so many games yet so much downtime. You just got to find creative ways to have fun and enjoy the teammates, enjoy Drake being around, and come up with stuff to do.
That's so cool for your little guy to. I know I was a daddy's boy. We all went to work with them, like construction work. Yeah. But to be able to be alongside Dad, I mean, that's awesome. That's incredible.
And I would always say that Drake coming to work, or you going to work with your dad, it wasn't necessarily for him to learn about my job. It was more for him to learn about his dad.
Yeah.
And kind of relationships, and even in times when I didn't treat people right or didn't say the right thing, I wanted him to be around and see that and be able to talk about it and say, hey, I screwed up.
Yeah.
I screwed up there. I snapped. Man, I screwed up. I should have treated this guy differently. To see both the good and the bad, I think did hit some.
And not trying to paint the picture of like, I'm this perfect guy, but it's like, hey, here's both sides of the coin, because Absolutely. You'll have that in life too.
This is life.
Yeah.
You're not, it's not going to seem fair all the time. Stuff's going to happen, and how do we handle it? And that's what I tried. And you'll see when you have kids, you start to kind of focus more and more on the importance of that, because they're watching every single thing you do.
Yeah, I know.
Your kid will be watching and everything you say, and it's pretty neat to know that you have that kind of influence on the little guys.
You've been kind of coy with plans. I think you've got stuff in your head that you don't really want to say in case it doesn't come off or whatever. What can you say about, what's on the bucket list? You're 27 now, you're married, you're healthy, financially in a good place. the world is your oyster now in terms of being able to do some things that you want to do. So, I mean, even if you don't know exactly what your plan is as such, and, you know, things might not be locked in, what's on the bucket list? And you're an athlete, you're a hard-working dude. That just isn't going to go away. You're going to have to find a way to channel that energy, which you've done with, you know, E3 and Buck Commander and things like that. So it's like, where do you see yourself channeling your energy? What's on the bucket list? What can we sort of expect from you?
You know, like, I mean, I'm a pretty competitive guy, but yeah, I hear people say, man, I need that adrenaline in my life. Like, I just need that. And I'm like, I'm okay. Like, I'm competitive. I enjoyed it. I think there's that fire inside you, you know, but, I really don't know, you know. I have a lot of thoughts. I have some ideas, but nothing's planned, nothing's for sure, just more talk at this point. I really think that right now the biggest thing for me, can we go travel to do some world travel? Yeah. We got a couple trips to Europe planned and this and that with my wife, and I owe her that, you know. She gave up quite a bit to do and sacrifice a lot, but I think I've waited for so long, and I know we just talked about it, but I can't wait to be a dad. I just did. When I was 20 years old, I wanted to have a little one. I just did. I thought I would have kids when I was in my early 20s, but not thinking, you know, I raced dirt bikes. How is that going to happen? With the travels and stuff like that. It's just, and of course, if Lindsay wanted them to do it, which she didn't, just because all the travel there was, she came with me to all the races and stuff. And, I just, we waited for this time to do that, you know, and we got a few things to get lined up and to move to Minnesota and this and that. But yeah, I'm first, and hopefully we can have kids and everything works out great. There's a lot of bumping around, a lot of bumps I hit on the road, on the dirt bike track. So hopefully we're still good.
They still were.
Yeah. But aside from that,
you guys didn't wear a cup?
No cups.
Oh wow.
You wear a cup?
Some iron balls.
You wear a cup out there when you ride?
When I rode, no, I don't. But I'm going like 15 miles an hour. Which, by the way,
yeah, but
I
a rock
felt like
hurts in
I
that
saw,
region.
I saw a video of me riding yesterday. Surely you guys had that in slow-mo.
No, we did. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But the bike still sounded normal. It still sounded like it was.
I'm going way faster and way higher than that.
Dude, we couldn't
That's
keep up with it.
embarrassing.
That's what I've always loved about motocross, though, is that the feeling you have on a dirt bike and that scared, like, I need to squeeze the brakes right now, is the same thing he has. But he's just doing it
at a slightly
40
higher
yards
speed
down the track. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's, I think, what's super cool. And everyone thinks they're getting the same feeling out of it.
Yeah.
You know what's neat is I wouldn't trade baseball for anything, but I think deep down, I wish I could do what you do. I have some guys in country music, man. I wish I had, you know, could do what they do. But I've talked to them, and they're like, man, if we could just play baseball. And so it's funny how you want what you don't have or want what you can't have.
Yeah.
Because I'm always looking at these other guys in professions thinking, man, that would be way cooler than playing baseball. And so there's your tangent.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's all of us there's something we want to be that we it's a little too,
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah, no, I could never do what you do.
We told if I could play the guitar, well, I mean, I could pick that up, but it's there. You know, I think of all that it takes to get there. Or I was just at the Bristol NASCAR race, and dang, to sit in that driving seat. But it's like, you know, just like you're getting on a dirt bike. I have no experience in a car, you know, or not very much. And so, but the things that you know, I think there's, try, but it's cool. Like, how cool is it that you can get in the, you know, get into it and you can ride, you know, and though you're not on a supercross track, but you can get that feeling and feel. And I'm weird like this, like, but whether I play golf or drive a car or whatever I'm doing, I feel that when I'm playing it, like, I got to get good at this so I can make it to that very top, you know, which I most never will. But there's just that, like,
well, that's the competitiveness.
Do you feel that way?
It
Like,
doesn't go. Yeah.
Like, gosh, I mean,
I'm watching you ride. I'm thinking, all right, I can get there.
Yeah.
All right. Keep putting the time in. I'll be able to do that one.
Yeah.
That ship has sailed, but no, I don't know that goes away.
What's something that you never got asked and never, you know, because I guess like we were sort of saying, the media almost baits answers. that they want to fill a headline, or that they want to fill a story or fit into the narrative of the sport, because you guys end up being a part of a bigger picture. You end up being a part of baseball. You end up being a part of motocross. But on that level, you guys are individuals and you're going through different things. So with you, I guess, what would be something that you never got asked that you really wish somebody would ask you, or you would have liked to have had a chance to kind of go into?
Yeah, I don't know that it would have been a specific question that somebody would ask, but I think I wish I would have said more often and reiterated to the media, which can be intimidating, especially when you have a boss, you're playing with teammates, you're playing for somebody, for a city, is to kind of get across that baseball isn't everything, you know, and you don't, and so many times after a game, in an interview, you don't necessarily lie, but you just kind of maybe make it out like you care more than you do, because you're supposed to. You know, I'm supposed to be upset because I left a bunch of guys on base and we lost the game or whatever, which you are, but deep down, especially the older I got, I would think more, man, there's way more important things going on in this world than this baseball game. And I remember saying it one time, I made an error and cost us the game or something, and one of the media guys was like, well, tell us about the play that you know, where you booted the ball. And I said, yeah, it was, you know, I should have had it, would have saved the game. I said, but, you know, reality is, and I had just gone to Walter Reed that morning, which is our military hospital in D.C. I was playing with the Nationals. I was there for 4 years and got to spend a lot of time at Walter Reed. And I had gone in there that morning and happened to meet a couple of kids, like 18, 19-year-old kids that had both their legs blown off. And one of them was sitting in there with his fiance. I think the other one had his parents in there. And just sitting and talking and hearing their story made baseball feel like the most unimportant thing on the planet. Go out that night, kick a ball, you know, whatever. And I did. I told the media, I'm like, you know what? Absolutely, it's upsetting. It hurts the team. I'm not happy about it, but let me tell you what I did this morning and what I saw. And they took it well. I mean, how can you not? So probably just to tell them, like, I love this game, but this ain't the most important thing, you know, going on in my world, our world, life right now. You know, we're here for such a short time, you know, compared to eternity, compared to, I mean, it just comes and goes.
Preparation
and
for the next.
We can lock in so much on racing, lock in so much on baseball. And those are things, again, you're 4 months out, you start thinking back, you know, I'm a couple years retired, you start thinking back on some of that, like, man, that wasn't as important as I made it out to be in the moment.
But I could have brought up the same thing, but you said it the best, that I couldn't have said it better than that, you know.
Wow.
And that's the same feelings and thoughts I have about it. So many kids are raised these days too to want it so bad. You got to want it. And then they probably think, well, what's wrong with me? I don't want it as bad as somebody.
Right.
But that wasn't supposed to be the main focus of your life. And I know when my grandma got cancer and passed away, and she's a big inspiration in my life, it was like racing. I was like that, but then racing, I didn't care. It wasn't like you said, what a platform, you know, to do that for a living. How, you know, blessed were we? But it was it's small. I mean,
it is.
What you know, great. You won a race. That's awesome. You won championships. That's amazing. There's people who are fed and who have jobs and all these things because of this. But it's like, yeah, there's bigger. There's cancer. There's war. There's people who are going things that
Sure.
this isn't. And maybe I come off too a little bit like racing wasn't fun, or racing wasn't like this, but it wasn't everything. What a great position, but I think there was more to life, and knowing that it was confusing a little bit, but once I learned, like about in 2014, but
puts things in perspective. How many championships did you win?
I think 9 throughout the whole.
Wow, that's a lot when you have to think, when he doesn't even remember
No,
how many. That's how
bad.
good he is.
And he won them all. He won all the major championships.
9. It's 9.
Before he was 20. Or by 20, he'd won everything.
No kidding.
20. I don't think people remember that stat.
Well, my point there was, after every one of those, how long after that holding up the trophy was it not satisfying anymore?
I know exactly what you're gonna say, and
I mean,
it was great in that moment, but I thought I was gonna live on that high for a month.
Then you're like, is this it?
I went to bed the next night, and you wake up the next morning, and you maybe have a little bit more money, and you maybe have another achievement behind your name, but it wasn't satisfying.
Right.
It wasn't rewarding like you thought it was going to be, you know.
And that's it. And that's the stuff the media doesn't really want to hear, but that's the reality. Like all these things we chase. I remember as a rookie, like, man, if I could make $1 million.
Yeah.
And you get there, it's like, if I could just sign a 2 or 3 year deal and make this and make. We set all these goals to and when we get there, we're like, man, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like it's never good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's interesting, and I figured that was the answer. That like pretty quick after holding up that trophy, you're kind of already thinking about the next one or thinking back, like, man, I thought that was going to be a better feeling than it was. Even though it's awesome, it just doesn't totally satisfy you. Yeah. Like I think people think it does.
Right, and I think people have that same thought we do, so they expect you're on that high that they think you're on, and they ask you about it. Probably you World Series, right?
Never, no. But that's
I'm just saying, though.
Absolutely.
I'm saying you win the World Series, the team, whether it's NBA Finals, they go around, they're doing this parade and all these things, but they're probably like,
man, that was weeks ago. Like,
let's get on to the next one already. Right. And it's so short lived, and
it is.
And there's bigger things in life. This is small, very small. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I think in saying that though, I think that anytime you go through anything extremely hard, which you guys both go through, what you do on the track is hard. The pressure that you and your mechanic and Roger and Ian, that's hard. So I think anytime you go through these super hard things, while the sport and the victories or the championships and those moments are short-lived, the people that you experience those extremely hard times with, that's very long-lived. So I think maybe that's probably, what gets taken out of sport, or, like Marines. You see a Marine that goes through and they'll be friends until they die because you go through something so hard. Obviously, sport's a bit different to, the battlefield. But in a lot of ways, it is a, it is a battlefield.
It's a brotherhood.
Exactly. So, I mean, while maybe too much emphasis is put on the victories of the championships and less on the people that you go through the struggle with. Is that something sort of fair to say?
I couldn't agree more. I think those are the things that after retirement I miss the most, is the rain delays, the 2-hour rain delay where you're in there playing cards with the boys, the long flight coast to coast after a night game to get up for a day game the next day, where it's that team room, locker room atmosphere. I'm telling you, in 2 years, I have never once missed being on the field. I've missed the relationships and exactly what you were talking about. The stuff that when you go through it,
because they're
win
the
a
only people
division
that
or
can
win
relate,
a World
right?
Series, those are the guys you'll probably stay in touch with for a long time. The guys you went through the grind with, your team.
Yeah, and that's
even guys you raced against that you maybe trained with.
Yep.
You just develop a respect there that's probably not going to be broken.
Yeah, it is. And you can pick up, you cannot talk for a while, but you pick up right where you left off when you call each other. And I think that's for sure. The track stuff was fun, but the relationships along the way, that's what's important. And yeah, you're right. You learn life experiences. I learned so many from going through the races and a lot of things, but that you can use moving forward. But it's the relationships, and that's what life's about too, So I couldn't agree more. You couldn't have said it better. I just blown away that you put it like that, and I'm yeah.
Well, I had all night to think about it. You gave me the question last night. Hey, so who was the guy? Who was the guy that you never got to race against?
Ricky Carmichael.
Ricky.
Yeah. He they call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time, which he is.
Pretty hard to argue.
Yeah, he was really very good.
You know how we find out? We do a one-on-one corn track race.
There we go.
Right here at the E3.
Yeah.
Just mano a mano.
We'd have
I'm sure he could make it out for that.
Let's set it up in a week. How about it?
Hey, Ricky still shreds.
Can he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How old is he?
How old? 30.
He's I think he's about your age, 37, right?
Is he?
Yeah, he's 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is he?
And Ryan had a lot to do with Ricky as well. So when Ryan first turned pro, Ricky was on was it his last year?
team.
Was it his last year though?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was in his last year and it was Ryan's first year and they were on the same team. And then
Oh, really?
Ryan moved
So you
to
got to know him
Tallahassee.
well.
Yeah, it was like, I
Okay.
got some good stories, but that's for
Come
another
on,
day.
give us a story. One Carmichael story.
Not on
Because
there.
man, I've got some good ones too.
He's a little dirty.
He's a legend.
He can be a little extreme in some of his stuff, but oh man, he had this thing. They call it Waffle House, smothered and covered. Or,
Oh yeah.
So they
Diced.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they turned this one deal. So after every time he'd get done riding, he's retired, of course, just test riding, helping us out. He thought it's funny that he's going to take his riding underwear. I mean, these things they got skids in them, you know. He just went behind the water tank deal, went to the bathroom. There's no toilet paper over there, so he takes these things and wraps them over your head, squeezes it tight behind your head so you're in it, like it's on your nose. And so after every time he rode, you had to watch your back.
Oh shoot, I like him even more. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
He's a good
That's sick though.
He's a good old Tallahassee boy.
He helped me out so much. I owe that guy a lot. He's a good guy, good family. His parents are awesome. It's awesome.
Very cool.
So what made you get into motocross? Because I feel like that's probably as far away from baseball as you could probably get.
Yeah, it is. I had a bike when I was 13 or 14. I had a big Honda 250.
Two-stroke?
Old. No, old. I mean,
Okay.
it was an antique then.
Yeah.
I have no idea what year this bike was. My dad, I think we got it for $150. I started riding, and we had a culvert go over our driveway, and it was just one spot that I remember it being like a 10-foot ramp. It was probably about 1.5 feet, you know, when you're 13, 14. And so I'd go jump the driveway all the time. I mean, just over and over, jump the driveway. Baseball comes around. I decided to do that for, you know, career, and I wasn't able to ride for like 20 years, maybe more than that, just because of contracts. That's like literally one of the first things in your contract is do not get on a motorcycle. So I hadn't touched it until probably 1.5 years ago, and that was one of the first things when I retired. I went and bought a dirt bike, put a little track in, and was trying to get back into it. It's just I remember riding when I was younger, having zero fear.
Yeah.
I never thought, you know, what if it was this is gonna look cool.
Yeah.
And that was my only thought. And now I find myself like, as I'm going, like, man, what if this doesn't work out? So I wish I could have got into it 20 years ago. I probably would have never been good, but I think I would have had a little more idea what I was doing, and just always really respected what you guys did. And more so when I started riding out here, when I started riding on a track and finding out how draining and how hard that is. And I'm talking about just 4 or 5 laps going pretty slow, and I'm soaking wet and my forearms are killing me. I mean, it's a full body workout. So now I think more than anything, I'll use it just kind of for fun and also cardio, just to go out and kind of get some riding in. But I always loved it and respected it. So
and now you
at
get a chance to
37,
do it.
I said, well, better late than never.
Yeah.
And I got to ride his bike yesterday, which, by the way, is staying here. We're gonna,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna call it in. We're gonna call it in stolen.
You guys heard it first right here. We're good.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing with the track, man?
Yeah, I wanna know.
You got a fantastic track there.
Well,
out
I
the
don't
back.
even. Who owns it? Do I own it or does Red Bull own it?
Is it on your land?
That's right.
It's on your
my
land.
land. Man, I have no idea. Honestly, I plan ahead so little that I didn't even think about that till like 2 days ago. Somebody asked me. I was like, well, I hadn't even got that far yet. I don't know, because I can't ride it. I mean, I can't jump any of them.
I tell you what we do. Baker's got the equipment here. I mean, that track's there. You got to ride. You got to say you want to ride it, right?
I would love to,
Right.
but I mean,
Let's
I
knock-
think that's
let's knock some-
You saw me ride yesterday.
Yeah, but let's tame some jumps down and
We better tame them way down.
go a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Or
Just
put,
make
put
it-
foam pits at the bottom of all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, like make it
No.
like a nice, Yeah, you could definitely have some fun out of that thing.
Yeah.
Well, you can have a new bike.
I got a new bike. Just got a new bike. So we got that covered.
So you just text Ryan and say, all right, so the first one, what am I throttle, what gear? And then that's all you need to do. He knows exactly how it is.
That's right. That's right. I would love to keep it. Something to shoot for. Shoot, maybe an excuse to get you back out here to play around on it sometime.
I'm 500 miles from Minnesota. It don't take but 7 hours. I get here in the pickup truck. I got my fishing poles.
Oh, that's right.
You got a guy's dream land out here.
Oh,
so
it's been...
I don't have a gun, but I'll go buy a gun. You know,
we got guns. We got that covered. Yeah,
you've seen in there.
Yeah.
You're good.
I'll mow the grass for you. Whatever I gotta do, I'll be your land keeper.
When the zombies come, I'm flying here.
I'll meet you.
Adam, you need a shooter, bro. You need a shooter. This is where I'm coming.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you think when you saw that? Like, because you'd heard the concept, but what did you think when you saw the track for the first time?
Did you see any
video
video
about
or
the corn
pictures?
track?
Did you see any of it coming in?
I seen pictures.
Okay.
Never an aerial, just more pictures. I expected something 100 completely different.
Really?
When I got here and the way it was and how the layout was good, it's way better than I thought. In a good way, it's better.
Good.
But I didn't. The funny part, like I had to follow Sean off the jumps. He's one of the guys who helped build the track with Jason. He used to race. Sean Reif, good old dude, and I had to follow him off the jumps because we're jumping over like some blind jumps. We're jumping over the corn and there's you couldn't just jump and land on the flat in the middle of the jumps. There's corn all in the middle, so you'll see. And so it was like, ooh, let's get these down first before we.
Plus, you're coming off the couch. It's not like you're in Supercross mode. Last time you rode was over the bars at Alden's on Wednesday.
Yeah. No, but I had a couple days over him, so it just was. I'm having so much fun, and I was telling Adam, it's like, if this was, it's where I grew. It's like exactly where I grew up. Just how the area is around here. I was in the cornfields, and we had a track, and so just to be able to ride it and not have the race and not be stressing on having to get ready for a race, I can just enjoy this, and it's similar to where I grew up. It's just like I underestimated the fun factor, how much I was really going to enjoy this. So it's just really neat how this all works out. Yeah.
I think part of your fun here too is you're not in the middle of a season.
Exactly.
You're not now you know that you can just go enjoy it, not worry about times, just go have fun.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we talked about that yesterday. Just I guess how much more fun it is when you're not in that grind of.
Yeah, even off season, I don't think I would have really enjoyed it. Yeah. If I was even racing next year, I don't think I would have enjoyed it even if it was off season.
Right.
I would have. Don't get me wrong.
This is different.
This is just. It's nice to just completely like let go and enjoy for why I started it. It's why I started. I'm getting back to those roots, and I love that. That's fun. I mean, I know why I ride the dirt bike, because it was fun.
When you're a kid riding in Minnesota and in the cornfields, did you ever fantasize about having a custom built track where you could jump in it? Like, tell me you had that fantasy as a kid.
I was laying in bed last night thinking, dude, all these people are here because of me, and this retirement thing, and I'm not riding out there, hey guys, look at me. I'm just like incredibly blown away, like never I would have ever imagined. I was a big dreamer, but I was also a little bit how the heck am I ever gonna make it there? Because but here we are.
That's how humble you are.
I don't know. This is crazy.
Loves you, so
yeah. Well,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and this guy opens up his land for us to plants the corn. I mean, this is a process, and Red Bull putting this on, and they've been an amazing sponsor. And I don't know. This has just been. It's hard to put into words. This has been an incredible week, a couple days.
Well, we'll wrap it up here. I learned a lot about each of you. I mean, and I've known Ryan for a while now, so I think the beauty of doing something like this and getting the conversation going. So thanks very much for having us out at your property. It's absolutely incredible. I don't want to leave, and I can't wait to see how the video turns out. Dun's been amazing. Appreciate it, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.